Welcome, everyone. Talking with kids about cancer. Today, we have joining us on the panel, guiding you through the conversation, is Jess Quiring. She is the executive chair of the New Mexico Cancer Council. Jess has an extensive history in working with cancer care and developing navigation programs, developing and facilitating cancer support programs for patients and their families, being an advocate for patients, oncology navigation, and care coordination through effective policy change. Jess is a senior program coordinator and a facilitator in the New Mexico for Climb, a program open to any cancer family in the community. They're providing support and education for children and teens who have a significant adult in their life that's been diagnosed with cancer. Jess's community partnerships and collaborative activities include development and facilitation of the Teen Engagement Program of Cancer Services of New Mexico at our family retreat. Leadership of the Oncology Patient Navigator virtual network, a local navigation network of Academy of Oncology Nurse and Patient Navigators. She's a member of the National Navigation Roundtables Policy Committee and a national speaker on collaborative partnerships in cancer care and patient experience and engagement. And she's my personal favorite patient navigator.
Oh, thanks,
Take
Carmel.
it away, Jess.
That's how we met. We're blessed to know you. Hi, everybody. I'm Jess, and that was a long introduction. I'm pretty involved in the cancer community here locally and nationally, and my cancer journey began as the caregiver for my late husband, who passed away from a very rare sarcoma. And it was some number of years ago. My kids were pretty small. They were 3 and 5 at the time. And there really wasn't anybody around to say, how do we help our kids or what do we say to our kids? And, through just becoming involved in the cancer community, after his passing, I learned a lot about it and experienced grief and grief facilitation, anticipatory grief, which is really what families are experiencing when you are facing a cancer diagnosis and treatment. Even if that person's going to be okay, you experience quite a few losses. So, we're going to talk today about how to talk to your children and teens about cancer, what to say, what not to say. We're going to watch a video in this presentation. It's about 14 minutes long, so I want to make sure we have enough time to watch that video. I think it'll be really helpful for you in how to address cancer with your kids. And this is going to be across all ages, okay, from infancy to your young adults. So, Climb is a program from the Children's Treehouse Foundation, and it is available to kids and their families online. You can go to their internet site, the Children's Treehouse Foundation. They have online programs now. They can help you with where to connect with an in-person program if there is one in your area. But a lot of this information comes from the Climb program as well as, frankly speaking, from cancer support community. And I'll share those resources with you here at the end of the presentation. So many times as parents, we find it really difficult to talk with our kids about challenging conversations. And, cancer is one of those. And we want to make sure that we're including our kids on this conversation and that they have enough time to process the information as we ourselves do as adults, learning about our diagnosis or our loved one's diagnosis. And then the next appointment, you get a little more information, and then the next appointment, and then you start treatment. So we receive information in stages. So you want to be able to give your kids the same information so that they're getting information along with you in stages. Oftentimes, as adults, we want to protect our kids from information. We may withhold, um, and intending to say it at a good time. There really isn't a good time. I mean, there could be some better times to share, which we'll talk about in this, but really giving them the same opportunity to get information as stages as you do is best. And then we don't like to share scary news with him, so we feel really protective about it. But they're pretty smart kids. They'll know when something's up. And they'll think that, they may wonder if you're not sharing something with them. They might not know what it is, but they're usually pretty intuitive and figure out something's going on. And then that can just set the stage for mistrust if you're not sharing just yet. So we just want to, open the doors to what does a healthy conversation look like that's supportive and is the right information to share with them, because we certainly don't want to give them too much information or information that's not appropriate for them to have. But telling your kids the truth, no matter what age, is just absolutely primary. So because you're their person and the person you really don't want to develop mistrust with them. So we're going to talk about what to say and what kids can understand by their age. So I think it's important to understand what exactly can they what can they know, what can they cognitively discern by their age, and that's going to dictate how much you share and how you share it. We're going to start from the beginning, birth to 2 years old. So clearly an infant and a toddler really cannot understand much about, what cancer is, or what's happening for you. But what they can understand or what they feel are your feelings or a sense of change in your day to day activities. They might sense energy changes in you, their person, or in other family members. And also, just changes in their routine, their bedtimes. Those are all things that are going to impact them. Um, and they might start displaying, especially in the toddler ages, some separation anxiety. If you're gone more than you usually are because you're going to appointments or accompanying someone to appointments, they're going to feel those things. So our next stage is 3 to 5 years old. So they can have some general understanding about illness, certainly at this point in time. Your child might have had a tummy ache. They can understand not feeling well. Maybe they've been tired, or they know that, a nap makes them feel better, things like that. They're certainly going to sense emotional changes in the family. They can have fantastical thoughts at this age, such as if you're not feeling well all the time, maybe they're doing something to cause the illness. They can have some regression, like maybe your child at this age has been potty trained and for some years, but they may start wetting the bed, or maybe they want you to talk to them like a baby again, or like you did when they were younger, or treat them that way. These are all comfort measures. So they're sensing things are different, and they want to have some comfort and safety. They can ask repetitive questions like, where are you going again? Why, even if it's the same, and why don't you feel good again? They also can have separation anxiety. They may not want you to be gone. Um, they can have tantrums again. They might act out things with their dolls or cars, or whatever they like to play with, or they might play act with you that they're sick and you're not the one sick. And this can all be hard. Watching your child act out things they're experiencing, especially surrounding cancer and treatment and doctor's appointments, can really hit home. Um, if you aren't feeling well, or their person isn't feeling well and not able to spend the same amount of time that you normally would with them, it's really helpful for them to still have some normalcy. And if you're not up to going out to the park or going to play or going on a play date, or maybe you can't because there's some immune composition there, you can color with them, watch a movie with them, find quiet ways to spend time together, read with them so that they're still getting some one-on-one time, and that can really help them a lot. So, school age kids, 6 to 8 years old. A lot of things are happening at this age. They're becoming really social. Friends are super important. Not being left out of things can be really important for them. So if somebody, a friend in class is having a birthday party and everybody can go, but maybe they can't because you're concerned about any immune composition for yourself or your loved one, that's going to impact them socially, and they're gonna that and that's a negative impact for them. I'm not saying do it anyway, just keep that in mind that the things for them are changing and what would normally be their normal activities is also changing. They can still have magical thinking at this age. They can still have regression, especially the 6 to 7 year olds could still maybe wet the bed again. If they, of course, have been potty trained for a long time, they can have signs that they're not coping well. It could be acting out in school, it could be tummy aches or headaches all the time. They might express worry, even anger towards you. That can be really hard for parents if there's some anger displayed. Maybe they're, acting out a bit more. They can still play act like they would at a younger age. And they could also display distancing themselves from you. Maybe they're just avoiding talking, avoiding being around. And that's typically based on worry or fear. And this is all really normal behavior. It doesn't feel good for us as the parents or adults because we don't want our kids to feel these things, but it is normal for them to display that. Social situations, not being able to go to things, this is going to be pretty important at this age. And maybe they're in sports. Um, Different people maybe need to take them to their sport or other activities. And those will also be changes, which, we're still helping them have some normalcy here, but different people are taking them, and maybe it's typically you, and now you can't. So do find ways to spend time with your kids at this age as well as you can, and at your energy level that's appropriate. But you can do quiet activities like watching movies, reading books, doing some crafts. Okay, middle school. Your middle school aged kids, they're going to have a basic understanding of cancer. They're got phones, they're Googling, they're on the internet, they're looking stuff up. Really, really important that they're getting the right information and that you, as trusted adults in their lives, are providing that pathway to the right information for them. Some people feel like it's okay to take their kids this age to the doctors with them for certain appointments. I think this is a great idea if you feel like your kid can handle it. I think there just needs to be good boundaries surrounding whether or not your child is feeling like they are becoming a caregiver in that situation or needing to take care of you in that, which is not really what you want them to do in that situation, just more be an observer, not really a participant in the meeting. But some families find that this is helpful, and you know what your child can handle or not handle. And you might want to talk with their school counselor about what's happening at home and what might be appropriate for them to experience with you or not. But they definitely understand cancer. They probably know someone who has experienced cancer or lost someone to cancer. And same actually with the school age group. At this point, they may know somebody or have experience who's experienced cancer or has cancer. Um, they can, even at this age, have magical thinking still. And I know that's strange to think about at this age, but they can have some fantastical thoughts. They might show anger just because they might have a bunch of feelings happening inside for themselves and not really know how to express a particular feeling. And anger is usually the most accessible feeling in times of stress. And so things can be displayed as anger, even if being mad may not be the feeling they're really experiencing. Um, they may not have the ability to express how they're feeling. So giving them a way to talk to you and express themselves can be really helpful. Keeping up with social connections is also a really good coping skill for them because social interaction is super important at this age, and having a friend to talk to can be really helpful. Um, that just this peer group not being different as a middle schooler is so important when even when your family is not experiencing something as devastating as cancer. So just keep in mind that those common milestone and growth trajectories don't change just because cancer happened in the family. So trying to support that as much as you can that is appropriate and that you're able to do. Okay, our teens. Gosh, our teens are really in a gray area because they're really becoming young adults. They're certainly a lot more independent. We rely on them to do a lot of things. They participate in our households more in depthly. Maybe, they're already doing those things. But it's important to understand that they're still kids, especially when the family is facing something as difficult as a cancer diagnosis. They certainly understand the enormity of a cancer diagnosis. They can understand all of the things that the person with cancer is having to do because of the cancer diagnosis, the treatment, the lab work, the doctor visits, how you're not feeling well. And definitely they can help out more at home, but I wouldn't look too overly heavy to them to become adult managers in the household unless that's already been their role to an extent in your family structure. They can still have a great deal of misinformation about cancer. They're Googling everything. We know they're all online, watching things, reading about things. They probably know a lot of people who've experienced this, but again, making yourself the primary point of information for your doctor. The teens certainly accompany their adults to appointments. The same rule would apply. There are observers and not participants in the appointment. Um, and teens tend to think about life versus death a lot just by nature of where they're at in life, and thinking about the enormity of life a lot. They can have a real struggle staying close to you and wanting to be close and also keeping their independence. Again, anger can be a way of expressing confused feelings and even sadness, or just that they're not coping as well. Um, Routine is really important to them, as are their peers. So, keeping that in mind. And they can also protect you because they know you pretty well by now as a teen, and they might want to protect you from their own feelings they're having. So just keep that in mind. They can take out their frustration on other family members and even on you. And be careful not to overload them again with too many adulting activities, helping them remain kids still. And they do just need to feel to have time to be a kid and not feel like they're responsible for what's happening, if that makes sense. So, any questions in the Q&A on this?
There's one, Jess.
Okay.
What is the best approach when your teen is avoiding you, creating distance?
Yeah, that's a great question. And if you don't mind, can we circle back to this one after we talk about some other things? Because I think this other information will help you with that approach. Any others?
No, that's the only one.
great question though. So I want to be sure to answer that one later. Okay, so this is some very basic feeling facts that come from the Climb program. And it's something that if you're in that program or in any kind of support group, you usually are looking at feelings facts like this of some kind, but these rules apply. So before you're entering into a conversation with your teen or your kids about cancer, keep these rules in mind. And these are great to print out and put on the fridge. And they're really just life lessons that everybody is feeling something all the time. So when you ask your teen or your kids, like, how are you feeling about this? And like, I'm fine. I don't feel anything. That's not true. We all feel something all the time. But sometimes people have mixed feelings. They could feel happy it's their birthday, sad you can't do anything, worried because you're not feeling well, all at the same time. And that can be really hard to discern sometimes. So just keep in mind that sometimes you have mixed feelings. All feelings are okay, but some feelings are hard to have, right? And then also, feelings need to be expressed. And we're not responsible for someone else's feelings. And we can't change what other people feel. We're only responsible for our own feelings. And we can't change what other people feel. Okay, so how do you talk to your kids? So the rules are you're always going to tell the truth even if it's a hard question. And you're going to treat this conversation like the sex question, okay? You're only going to share as much as is appropriate for the age you're talking to. Keeping in mind the cognition pathways of kids that we just talked about. What can they understand? Where are they at? Cognitively, that's how you're going to treat this conversation. You're for ages 3 to 12, you're going to keep it simple. You're not going to go into details. If you're going to lose your hair, if you've been told there's a chance you may lose your hair, definitely share this with your children before it starts happening. Because losing your hair can feel pretty scary for a kid when your appearance changes. And it's not that they're afraid of you, it's just they don't understand what's happening. And helping them know that this is going to happen makes it a lot less scary. That you're going to do everything you can to help yourself get better, that they cannot catch this from you and no one else in the family is going to catch this from you. And then you're also going to let them know that you will tell them everything they need to know um, when you can tell them about it. And that just because you're not feeling well and you have cancer, you're still there for them, and that you will talk with them whenever they need to talk with you about things, that you're going to remain open to talking with them. It's not a one-time conversation. That this is a journey that everyone is on, and that as things need to be talked about, you will be there for them to talk about it. Okay, next slide, please. So now we're going to talk about what you don't say. You don't ever say everything is going to be okay, because that's very subjective. What is okay for you may not be okay for them, or may not be okay for their sibling or another family member. What is okay looks different for everyone. And the fact is that you don't know what will happen at the end of the day or the end of treatment. And you don't want to set your child up for, again, mistrust or feelings that they can't believe what is being told to them. You're not going to tell them that how they feel is wrong. If they're mad about something, about the cancer, or mad at you because you're sick again another day, like, it's okay for them. That's really hard for you if you're experiencing that, but it really is an okay and normal feeling to be angry about that. Don't tell your child that you're not going to die, because we just honestly, outside of cancer, none of us know when our time is, and we don't know that. A car accident can happen, other things happen in life. It may not be the cancer, And again, that just sets up fantastical thinking and lines of mistrust between you and your child, and it's just not a good idea. Anything you don't know, if they ask you something, tell them you don't know the answer, but that you will find out the answer or you can find it together if it's appropriate. But don't say things because you felt uncomfortable with not knowing or uncomfortable with the silence. Um, you know, transparency and trust is key here. Okay, next slide, please. And I'll pause. Any questions about those slides? Alrighty. So before you speak, these are really, there's never a good time. Like, you're not gonna have the perfect time, but you don't wanna have these conversations before you're rushing out the door to go to an appointment, or everybody's leaving for the day or running to your appointments and they're going to school. It does need to be a time that you can have space to have this conversation. You're not having to leave one another after the conversation, like a time when you can maybe do an activity together afterwards, so that you have some moments to be together after this conversation. But before you go in, you definitely need to check your own feelings. Think about, how am I feeling about having this conversation? Am I feeling anxiety or overwhelmed with it? And do I feel like crying if I have the conversation? Like, that's okay. Just know where you may go in the conversation. Think about possible questions your child may ask. You know your kids. You know what, if they're curious kids or quiet kids. Think about what might come up, and think about how you're going to answer that question that's appropriate to their age and your relationship with them. Think about the feelings your kids might have, what may come up for them, um, and then think about, again, your feelings as you talk to your child about this. Their emotions, with their age group, and just don't go in the dark. Go in prepared, okay? Any questions about approaching the conversation? So let's go maybe back to that question we had earlier about if your child's avoiding you. That can be normal. It may be that they don't know what to say. They may be afraid to say anything. Not sure how old your child is that you feel maybe avoiding you. Really young kids can avoid someone they think is sick. Um, if they may be afraid of hurting you or making you feel worse, my advice is to be brave. It's scary to bring these things up with your kids, but it requires bravery on your part to be the person to guide them down the scary path, as you are already as their parent or special adult in their life, and find a time to say, you know, this is happening. I want to know if you have any questions about it. How are you feeling about it? It's okay for you to share that you feel scared, um, but you're going to I'm going to do everything I can to feel better and to get better. But it's okay to be scared, and it's okay for you to be scared, and it's okay for you to cry. Um, there's a difference though between sharing your emotions, or your emotions being shown, and placing your emotions on your child. You don't want to come away from the conversation with your child feeling like they're having to caretake your emotions, but that you're holding space for each other together. And that is even with smaller kids. I hope that helps a little bit, but I would just encourage you to find time to have your child talk with you, and they may try to dodge that as best they can. But and you know your kid, but saying, we really need to talk about this, and when we're going to talk about this. So, and maybe giving them a time. You again, this is a about the personality of your child and how they cope with things, but saying, some kids need preparation for such big conversations, just like some adults need preparation for these conversations. And giving them a heads up that you want to have a talk rather than just springing it on them is probably a good idea. This is a video from MD Anderson. It was produced for the Climb program. It's shown at all the Climb trainings. Um, it's made by kids for kids. I also would show this video to my adult cancer patients who really just needed the basics about what is cancer, what are the different treatment options. It's a great teaching tool, and but we'll take a look at it.
Meaning,
No, we're not able to hear it on our end.
Okay. I don't think it's gonna work for us today. But you can go to YouTube and just look up talking with your kids about cancer. And you've seen what that's the front page of it. And it's about 14 minutes long. And they talk about um what is cancer? They describe cancer, how cancer happens. They talk about the different treatments for cancer. It's a little bit dated because it talks about surgery, radiation, and chemotherapy. But now we know we have like immunotherapy happening and molecular medicines that really target tumors. So those are actually different from chemotherapy and radiation and surgery. But for kids' purposes and the purposes of understanding like the cancer treatment, it really is a very good basic explanation of what to expect with treatments. It's kids saying like what bothered them or what they thought about when they learned their parent had cancer. But it really is a lovely approach to it, and then gives you it's talking to your kids, like kids asking questions about, did I cause this cancer? And a social worker telling them, no, you absolutely didn't do this. And it's definitely okay to hug your mom and dad and be a kid and be happy, because kids can think, is it okay for me to be really happy? It's my friend's birthday when my family's feeling so bad about this. And just reaffirming to our kids that absolutely, they can absolutely be happy about those things. It's not this or that. It's both things. So I hope you all take a moment. I think it will really solidify some of the things that we talked about today, and help you. So here's some really good resources. The Climb program, you'll see that talking with my treehouse friends about cancer, that little picture, that's actually a little coloring book, and it's for young kids, like 3 to 7. It's not for older kids, but it walks through the Climb program in a coloring book. There's a really good book written by Peter Vandermoot, who is the creator and founder of the Climb program and Children's Treehouse Foundation. And then the cancer support community has great resources. The Frankly Speaking series on all kinds of cancer support topics. And this book, What Do I Tell the Kids? A lot of the information we talked about in cognitive stages came from that book. That's a free resource, and so is that Climb coloring book. Um, and I have some other resources available. If anyone would like those, you can reach out to the cancer retreat coordinators and they can put you in touch with me, and I can give you other resources here locally if you need any help with counselors who speak with kids or um, other support. I'd be happy to help you. I hope I answered your question about approaching your teen when they're avoiding you.
we do have a question. Do you tell a 3-year-old grandpa that grandpa has cancer?
Yes, you can tell your 3-year-old that grandpa has cancer. Cancer is going to be a big word for a 3-year-old. Um, you are, keep in mind, and this is going to be available online for your viewing if you need to revisit anything we talked about the age groups and their cognition ability. So a 3-year-old's not going to be able to understand how loaded the word cancer is, but what they can understand is that grandpa's not going to feel good. We're going to help them go to a lot of doctor appointments, but they're not going to be able to hold much space in their head for that. They're just going to feel the changes in the family. If the family's having to help grandpa, changes to their normal activity and routine. And then if grandpa's acting different because he doesn't feel well and they spend a lot of time with grandpa, they're going to feel those things. But you can tell them that grandpa has cancer. So, and I would.
Another question, Jess, do pediatricians know how to help with with these questions, with these situations?
Um, maybe the answer would be maybe your pediatrician does. But I wouldn't expect your pediatrician to know how to help with these questions. Um, that's why we provide these other resources. If your child is in school, if it's a school age child and older, talking to the school counselor can be helpful. Um, I can't imagine them not having a family that's been impacted by cancer, but not everyone asks questions and seeks out resources in that way. So, but they will find right information for you, and they are a trusted source of information. Your cancer treatment program, wherever the person's receiving care, should have a navigator or a social worker who can help you with resources as well.
Jess, thank you so much for coming in again and providing this information. It's so helpful. I hope that everyone in our audience found what you needed here. Have
Thank
a great
you.
afternoon. Thank you, Jess.
Take care.